At 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 1,200 degrees Celsius. It's a bit hotter than lava, which is why the glass looks orange when we start. It's also why it's moving. Paul's showing you what happens when you stop turning the pipe. The glass starts to drip down to the ground. That is hot enough. If that goes down to the ground, it will burn a big hole in our stage, which is a different demonstration. This is the one where we make a beautiful work of art. Has anybody here seen glass blowing before? A couple hands, a couple heads. Nice. Has anybody tried it before? Oh, we got some glass blowers in the audience. All right, it's time to shape up, Paul. We've got to make a nice piece. Sit up straight. This next part's really cool. Paul's going to put a bubble into the glass. That's going to be the inside of whatever piece he's making. So keep your eye on the glass. This can happen kind of quick. He's going to put air into the mouthpiece end of the pipe, cap that end with his finger. That air has nowhere to go, put it into our glass, creating our bubble. Pretty sweet, right? We get paid to do that. Now, this isn't quite enough for what we want to make. We could make a small drinking cup out of this much glass. Glass blowing is always done in layers, so if you want to make a small thing, you can start with a small bit of glass out of the furnace. If you want to make a big thing, you have to start with a small bit of glass and add more layers to your piece. We have a unit of measurement called a gather. It's about how much we can get out of the furnace by putting the pipe in and turning to pick up glass on the end. So this is one gather of glass. We're going to get 2 gathers of glass to make our piece. Again, something similar to scale to those 2 vessels on our metal table right there. Paul's going to go back in right now. He's just waiting for the bubble to get cold. Glass is cold when it stops moving completely. That's usually about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 520 Celsius. If we go into the furnace any hotter than that, our bubble can twist or collapse. So he's waiting, mostly looking at the color and the movement. This is not glowing orange and it's not moving. Good signs that it's cold. It looks cold. I sound cold. That's exactly 1,000 degrees. We're ready. So back in. This part's kind of like getting honey on the end of a chopstick out of a jar. You plunge the tip of the pipe into the pool of clear glass and he's turning, picking up more glass on the end. And if you look carefully at this point, you can see that initial bubble on the inside of the glass. It hasn't changed shape at all, so we went in at the perfect temperature. Now we're adding color. We're going to do that by rolling the glass back and forth through piles of crushed up colored glass called frit, F-R-I-T. The chips of glass on the table are small and cold. When you roll hot glass over them, they melt just enough to stick to the surface of the glass on the end of your pipe, giving you a layer of spots of whatever color you want. We have over 300 different colors we can buy from the store. And that is how we get it. We don't make the colors ourselves. It's all chemists and material scientists that make them. We just buy them from the store and play around with them. And that's because you need a lot of chemistry knowledge to make these kinds of colors. A good example of that is the blue that Paul's rolling in right now. This is called a cobalt blue. I think everybody has a pretty good idea of what cobalt looks like, or cobalt blue rather. And this is cobalt added to glass. If you take about a teaspoon of cobalt and throw it into a furnace our size, holds 200 pounds when it's full, you mix that all up and get it really hot, it's going to turn that shade of blue. So it's very small amounts, which is why you don't want to just try and figure out how to make glass color yourself. Excuse me. This is our reheating chamber. Big barrel of fire right here. Same temperature as the melting furnace. We use that side of the shop to get our glass hot. You didn't have quite enough heat to go into this mix of colors. It's a mix of some yellow, some orange, some green, and some lavender. All different metals making those colors. And it's a different size of frit. You can get different sizes, so you can get it pretty fine. That gets you pretty close to a solid layer color. This stuff never gives you exactly a solid layer color, but you can get pretty close with the really fine stuff. And then larger chunks translate to larger spots on the outside of your glass. So he's back in the reheating chamber. Are we done with the color, Paul? We're done. So he's going to heat this up, get it really hot. When he sits down at the bench, he's going to use a block, which is a big cherry wood spoon soaked in water. We saw him use a small one of these earlier. That's going to give us a perfect shape to the glass. It's great for when we're about to blow the bubble into the glass. But now that the bubble's in there, we can sometimes lose that shape, rolling it back and forth on the table. So this is going to put that bubble back in the center of the glass. So when we blow that up, it blows up evenly on all sides. And you'll notice when he comes out of the reheating chamber, it doesn't look like any of those colors I described. It looks orange again. That is because of the metals in the colors that are reacting with heat. So you all won't see the true color of this piece while we're working on it. Later I'll show you a difference between the colors when they're hot versus when they're cold. But for now he's going to blow this up. Anytime he hangs the pipe down, he's using gravity to stretch it. You can see that happening in real time. Bubble getting longer. And then he's at our metal table. This one doesn't have any color on it, just a mild steel table. Metal cools down glass very quickly. So he's making that pointed tip on the end of the bubble. That's going to be the bottom of our piece. He wants that to be a little bit thicker than the rest of the glass. So if he cools that down before he blows it up, that's going to keep a little extra glass in that spot. So this move is making the bottom thicker and the top thinner. It creates good structure for the glass. You typically don't want it the other way around. If Pretty much all the steps up until this point are going to be the same. Now we're going to see Paul start to change up what he's doing depending on what shape he has in his head. I don't know what it is right now. You don't know what it is right now. Paul's the only one that knows right now what it is he's making. So he's going to get this really hot. Sit down on the bench. Use some tools to shape this up. I'm going to start blowing air into the pipe, helping out a little bit more as the assistant. He's going to start by shaping up the glass with one of our newer tools in our toolkit. This is a super fancy flexible shaping pad. It's called the Seattle Times newspaper. Pretty advanced technology for us, which is very new compared to this tool here. These are the jacks. A pair of steel blades. You can use these blades for a lot of things, like squeezing lines into the glass, stretching the glass, pulling it out. You saw Paul squeeze a line just off the head of the pipe, right there. That's called the jack line, creating a controlled break right there. Eventually, we are going to break this off the pipe. We're going to flip it around to work on the opening. Back instructions, you have to give us a clean break when we're ready to do that. And if you look at drawings of glass blowers from 1,000 years ago, you're going to see these blades. They look pretty much the same as they do today. They have not changed up all that much. Now, Paul got up from the bench. That's a good sign that the bubble's too cold to do anything else with it. The more we blow this up, stretch it out, the thinner the glass is getting. The thinner the glass is, the faster it's going to heat up and cool down. So less time to work on it at the bench, and less time to heat it up from the heating chamber. Now, Paul wants to drastically change the shape of the glass. You can use more gravity. We can do the same thing with our tools, stretching the glass out, but that's going to take twice as long to make our pieces. We can use gravity on the way back to the bench, get a little bit more length, and then get more shaping done with our tools. Stretching the glass out is a good sign that Paul wants to make something very long, like a vase or a vase. It's not going to be a bowl. Does anybody know the difference between a vase and a vase? About $400. Another good example, using the jack blades on the sides, smoothing out the tip of the bubble, making those side walls straight. Eventually, we need to make the tip of our bubble flat before we move on to the step where we flip this around and work on the opening. When Paul's ready to do that, he's going to heat up just the tip of the bubble. That's the only part he's going to want to move. So he's focusing a lot of heat right there. Every now and then we might see him flash the piece, put the whole thing on the inside just to keep that top a good temperature. When he wants to flatten it down, he's going to use one of two tools. He can use the jacks for this part. We have this little flat plane on the top of the tool. These are called the straps. Good for squishing things down. We also have a dry wood paddle. So those tools are going to do pretty much the same thing. But I mentioned earlier, metal cools down glass very fast. And that is true for our jacks. The wood will keep heat in your glass a little bit longer, so it gives you a little bit more working time. It's all up to Paul and what he wants to do for this. Starting out with the blades on the sides. Just flattening it a little bit with the straps. Blowing. I'm using a hand puffer to blow this up. And he is ready to flip this around and work on the top. So a hand puffer is another new technology for us. It's good for talking and blowing glass at the same time. It's kind of the only reason we use it up here. It's a lot less controlled than using your lungs, which is the more traditional way to blow up the glass. Now we're ready to flip this around. So to do this part, I need to make what's called a punty, which is a little bit of clear glass on the end of a solid rod. So I'm going to get a little glass out of the furnace and shape it up on our marver table. Once it's the right shape and temperature, I'm going to deliver that to Paul. He's going to squish this onto the bottom of his piece and then use that jack line to shock it, break it, and flip it. We can work on the top. But that's only if we do this part right. We have to have the right timing, the right temperature on both sides. If we go on too hot on either side, the punty will fuse to the bottom of Paul's piece. If that happens, we won't really know until the end of the demo. It'll be kind of difficult to take this punty off of the bottom. If we go on too cold on either side, we're all going to know right away. So we'll be on the ground. And we'll end our show a little bit early. So if this part works, I hope you all give Paul a huge round of applause, because this stuff's not easy to do. If it doesn't work, same thing. He's on there now. Get a good shot. He's adjusting it just a little bit, checking for center. Glass blowing is like throwing clay on a pottery wheel. You want to be on center.
Ready?
Ready.
Ready?
Ready. Check this out. Water on the glass. Tap the pipe. Now it's over here. And it worked. That works every single time we do it. Just kidding. That doesn't always work.
Just kidding.
Say it takes about 3 to 5 years to get to the point where you don't break everything that you make. And that's usually where you break the glass the most, when you flip it around to work on the opening. Now that we flipped it around, I took it over to the reheating chamber very quickly, gave it an overall maintenance heat called a flash. You can't ever let the glass get too hot or too cold too fast. It can't handle a rapid change in temperature. So if we ever let this get below 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit or 520 Celsius at the bench, and bring it back to that reheating chamber where it's a little over twice as hot, that change in temperature causes the glass to get really stressed out. It relieves that stress by cracking or shattering. It's called thermal shock. It's kind of like when you drop an ice cube in a cup of water and the ice cracks immediately. That's the same thing. That's the ice getting too hot too quickly. What do you think, Paul? Want to do a...
You guys want to see a lip wrap?
Yeah, excellent. Lip wrap. So lip wrap is a really thin extra band of color on the top of the piece. Neither of these pieces have lip wraps on them, but if this piece did, it would be an extra color right here on the rim. You all saw lip wraps in the baskets in the Northwestern and the Mafias in the Mafia Force. A lot of folks ask us how that gets put onto the glass, so we're going to show you. I'm going to start by getting that lip wrap ready. While I'm getting that ready, Paul is going to trim the lip of the vessel. It's kind of thick and uneven on the top of the piece. So if he wants to clean that up a little bit, he's going to spend some time heating up that lip, and then he'll take it to the bench, use some tweezers to stretch out any unwanted glass, and he's going to cut it with some shears. You can cut through glass, but only if you get it hot enough. The hotter the glass is, the more it's going to want to move with gravity as well. This move looks pretty simple, but it is a very tricky move to learn when you start blowing glass. So he's going to start stretching, just giving us a bit more length to our piece, and then as long as he's got the heat, he can go in for the haircut. That tail is coming down, so he's very hot and very sharp. That's going to hang out in a metal pan. In about 20 minutes, that bit that he just cut off is going to be cold to the touch, and that's going to give us a good idea of what our colors are going to look like tomorrow. A lot of folks ask if we can take those trim bits and recycle them by throwing them back into the melting furnace, which you can do. You can throw it into the melting furnace, it will melt down, but it's just clear glass in the melting furnace. If we throw any color in there, it will mix with the clear glass and give it a tint of whatever color we drop in, so we keep those separate. Now we flipped it and trimmed it. I'm getting our lip wrap bit ready. I just need to get this as hot as I can. Sharing the fire here a little bit. Paul's going to give his piece a good overall heat. We'll shape it up just a little bit, and then he's going to call me over when he's ready. In the meantime, I just need to get this as hot as I can. This is another move where timing and temperature are very important. He's using his tools to shape that up, make sure it's flat on the opening and the right size and shape. He's ready, so I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to bring over this bit of blue glass. I'm going to hang this down for him. He's going to take this and stick it onto the lip and turn down the rails. He put on as much of the blue as he likes, and then he just pulls back. It's hot enough that it separates, leaving behind our extra band of color on the opening. He's going to take that over to the fire, heat that up. And while he's working on that, I'll show you all how much you can stretch glass out when it gets hot. Take this bigger bit up here, stick that back to the pipe, hot glass sticks to hot glass. This part down here is so thin it instantly cooled down. This is 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit a second ago. It's now cold enough I can touch it with my finger without burning myself. You could too, but you're not allowed to. That's going to go into our cake. Eventually that glass is going to get so cold that it goes through thermal shock. It will break off of the bit rod. By the time we start our next demonstration, we'll have a fresh bit rod ready to use. Back to the piece. Paul's going to use the blades of the jacks. Shaping up the opening a little bit. I'm going to use a wood paddle to help flatten the lip while he flares that out on the top. Shaping it on the inside walls a little bit here as well. And we're done. What do y'all think? Beautiful. Nicely done, please. Check this part out. I love this part. Show me the colors in the light. Beautiful. I love that. Those colors are going to get a lot brighter when we take this out of the oven tomorrow. So the next step for this piece